Does smoking weed make it harder for you to manifest your desired reality? Well, before we answer that question, or in order to answer that question, we need to get on the same page in regards to a few definitions. So, what do I mean by weed? I mean weed. You know what weed is: THC, cannabis. Now, the principles we are going to discuss in this video honestly can apply to any mind-altering substance. However, we're going to focus on weed for this video. Also, we need to get on the same page of what do we mean by manifestation. Now, understand, you are constantly manifesting. Nothing makes it harder for you to manifest because as a thinking, feeling being, you are constantly manifesting. When people think about manifestation, sometimes they think of it in the sense of making something appear in their physical reality. They think of it in almost a magical sense. I want to manifest $1 million. I want to have $1 million appear in my bank account. However, the appearance of the things you are trying to manifest in physical reality is merely the end of the chain of events of manifestation. Manifestation is occurring at all times. And the beginning state of manifestation is, of course, the way you feel. So, to make it simple, let's say you manifest $1 million. The manifestation actually begins with you aligning mentally and energetically with having $1 million. This is why people like Neville Goddard talks about assuming the state or the feeling of the reality in which you wish to occupy. Now, there are people who are very good at quoting Neville and other mystics and philosophers. They're also very good at quoting the Bible verbatim. And I am incredibly familiar with the Bible, but that's not me. I will paraphrase, and I'm going to put up the actual quote on the screen if I think that's necessary. You can always fact check it afterwards. However, for the sake of conversation, I'm just going to talk to you as if you are a friend standing right there, and I'm just communicating what I understand to you. And so that is when manifestation actually begins. When you assume the state or the feeling mentally and emotionally that is in alignment with the reality or with any reality. It's not just the reality you wish to occupy. As many of us are aware, we have experienced many things and been in many situations that we didn't want to be in. The reality is we manifested all of those situations and experiences. And so you are constantly manifesting. And how it works, how manifestation works, of course, is you align energetically and mentally. You assume the state of the reality that you wish to occupy. And over time, as that energy remains consistent, persistent, focused, concentrated, it solidifies in physical reality. And it doesn't always solidify exactly the way in which you might want it to or think it should. For instance, you may want $1 million in your bank account. And initially, you learn about manifestation, you learn about the fact that your subconscious and conscious mind determines the reality that you experience. And you say to yourself, I want $1 million in my bank account. And you may envision your business that you're currently in generating that $1 million. However, let's say you successfully There are mosquitoes out here, by the way, so I'll do my best not to move around too much and be slapping them. But let's say you align yourself energetically and mentally with having $1 million. Well, then you're going about your life, you're going about your business, you're in that feeling, the relaxation of having wealth. Because really it's not the $1 million that you want. You want what you believe the $1 million will afford you, which may be a sense of peace and relaxation, knowing that you are completely financially free and you don't worry about money or unexpected expenses. You want the ability or the feeling of knowing that if you want to purchase something or go on a trip at a moment's notice, you don't even have to think about it. You want the feeling of accomplishment, admiration, respect from other people. There are various reasons why people want a lot of money. But let's say you successfully assume that state mentally. You walk around as if you're somebody who already has $1 million in his or her bank account. Well, you may have initially thought that that money was going to come via your business, but along the way, because you are holding that state of having $1 million, it may manifest in a different way. Maybe you'll go to Vegas and you're just going to Vegas to have fun with your friends and you hit a jackpot. Maybe some family member dies and leaves you an inheritance. Maybe you get inspired to start a whole new business. The point is, the universe will decide. The universe will figure it out for you. This is why in this space, you will often hear the importance of detachment. You have to detach from the how you're going to get there. You just assume the state of already being there, and then you follow your intuition. That's it. It's incredibly simple. Ideas will come to you. For instance, I am assuming the state of, I believe it's important not to communicate too much what it is exactly you're trying to manifest. Neville Goddard talks about the importance of silence. And so I actually believe it's very important that you don't tell people what you're trying to manifest. But the point is, a month or two ago, I had no intention of starting this YouTube channel and discussing these principles online. However, because of what it is that I am trying to manifest, and like you, I am trying to manifest an array of things. Not trying to, I am, because the moment you assume the state energetically, mentally, you have already begun the process of manifesting, just as a tree is growing the moment you put it in the ground and you water it and it starts to germinate. The process of growth has begun, even though you have not yet seen the tree physically break through the ground, or it's a seedling, yada, yada, yada. Point is, I was inspired to start this channel recently. The intuition, the gut feeling, the inspiration, it came to me. And it came to me in that state of peace, relaxation, and aligning mentally and energetically with the various things that I'm trying to manifest. And so I allowed it to lead me. 2 months ago, the things that I am trying to manifest, or the things that I am manifesting, I may have thought that I was going to get to that place without starting this channel. Well, I've been inspired to start this channel, and maybe the universe plans to use this channel to get me to materialize physically the state that I've already assumed energetically. Who knows? That's the point. That's detachment. You don't worry about how you're going to get there. Because the reality is, once you assume the state mentally, emotionally, energetically, then you already have the benefits. It appearing in the physical really shouldn't change anything. Now, of course, if you assume the state of wealth energetically, you can't go to the Louis V store and walk out with anything in the store. So there are some things that require the physical manifestation to occur for you to fully enjoy the state that you are in energetically, or to fully, right now you're in that state mentally, or in the initial phases you're in that state mentally and energetically. And of course, we want it to align with our physical reality. And that comes with being able to do certain things that you can't do prior to. We all understand that. That's very obvious. But how it makes you feel, the calm and relaxation, the sense of peace, well, that you should already be in that state from the very beginning. And so you're not going to feel any happier, any more accomplished, any better just because you finally have the money in your bank account and you can now go into the Gucci store or the Balenciaga store or into that wealthy suburban neighborhood and purchase a house. It shouldn't actually make you feel happier if you have already assumed the state mentally and energetically. So let's get back to the initial question, marijuana. Marijuana, weed, has the ability to influence the way that you feel and the way that you think. Your ability to manifest your desired reality in the physical is determined by your ability to maintain that state mentally, emotionally, energetically. Whether or not weed has the ability to hinder you from, let's say you want to manifest $1 million, well, if you find that it is the case that when you ingest marijuana, it makes you feel anxious, it makes you feel doubtful, fearful, it puts you in a state where you are no longer aligning with your desired energetic state, when you're no longer aligning with your desired reality mentally, emotionally, because of the effects of marijuana, well, in that instance, it is, of course, hindering your ability to focus your energy in such a way that encourages that reality to solidify in your physical reality or in your physical experience. It's that simple. There are many people who smoke weed that are millionaires, that are super successful artists. Look at a guy like Joe Rogan. He's a pothead, and he got a $100 million deal with Spotify. Look at Bob Marley. He was a Rasta, a Jamaican, and he made music that is going to last for so long, possibly forever. Such an impactful person, one of the most famous musicians to have ever lived, and he did that smoking a lot of ganja. And so there are no rules. There are no rules. Everybody is different. And it really just depends on whether or not weed makes it harder for you to stay aligned with the reality that you wish to see manifest in the physical, if it makes it harder for you to do that. If it makes it harder for you to stay in that zone mentally and emotionally. Now let's talk about the science of marijuana a little bit. It is known, it's a scientific fact, that consistent chronic use of marijuana raises your cortisol levels, which is your stress hormone. Cortisol is your stress hormone. And so it is a scientific fact that people who smoke weed on a consistent, ongoing basis have higher levels of stress. They also have poorer quality of sleep, which also contributes to higher levels of stress. And in men, it lowers your testosterone. And so, even though manifestation begins with the mental and the emotional, the energetic state, you have to understand that the physical affects the metaphysical, the immaterial, and the immaterial affects the physical. You go and exercise, you move your physical body, you feel better mentally. You feel better mentally, you're able to stay in a state of relaxation, joy, and bliss that then causes you to have that manifest in various forms in the physical. So it's a positive feedback loop, but it can also be a negative feedback loop. You don't get good sleep, you feel like shit, you become negative in your thinking. You become negative in your thinking, you manifest things that are in alignment with a negative energetic state. And so, there are no rules. You must always remember that. What matters is how you feel. So, you need to just be honest with yourself. And the reality is, if you are searching, if you went on YouTube and typed this in, does smoking weed make it harder for you to manifest? Then more than likely, if I had to guess, you're probably one of those people that it does affect negatively in such a way that it makes you feel worse. On some level, deep down, you know this, and so you're looking for confirmation online. However, if you're someone who smokes weed and you're just someone whose algorithm is tuned to the manifestation world online and you got recommended this video, then this is just, it may not necessarily apply to you if you're a weed user. But if you're looking for this information, also remember, you manifest everything. Every situation that you experience, it is the physical giving you what you are. It's the physical rewarding your mental and energetic state. And so if you've been given this video, like for instance, if you're a devout Muslim who doesn't smoke and has no clue about metaphysics and manifestation, then I can almost guarantee you're not going to get this video. You'll never see this video. You're seeing this video because it is in alignment with where you are energetically at this point in time. And so it's probably a sign that if you are a chronic user of THC, that maybe you should consider taking a break and seeing if you feel better. And if you feel better, well, then you're going to get better results in the physical. So that has been, does smoking weed make it harder for you to manifest your desired reality?